The crystal mines of Nexera Prime stretched endlessly into darkness, their walls pulsing with an eerie blue light that seemed to mock the prisoners who worked within them. Finncarver pressed his palm against the rough stone wall, feeling the familiar ache in his bones that came from months of forced labor. His hands once steady enough to perform quantum cellular reconstruction on dying patients, now trembled from exhaustion and malnutrition. He had been a healer once, back when Earth still had a voice in the Galactic Council, Dr. Finncarver. They had called him then the man who could mend what others deemed beyond repair. His quantum resonance therapy had saved thousands of lives across dozens of worlds. But that was before the Valdris Empire swept across human space like a plague. Before Empress Valdris declared all human medical practitioners threats to her rule. Now he was just another broken soul in the mines, his healing gift useless against the brutality of his captors. The Nexeran guards were towering beings, with crystalline skin that reflected the mine's glow, therefore arms ending in razor-sharp talons. They spoke in clicking languages that hurt human ears, and they showed no mercy to those who faltered in their work. Finn had watched too many fellow prisoners collapse and never rise again. "Move faster, flesh thing," one of the guards hissed at him in broken human standard, his translator device crackling with static. "The Empress demands more crystals for her war machines." Finn nodded silently and returned to his work, chipping away at the glowing veins that ran through the rock. These crystals powered everything in the Valdris Empire, from their warships to their communication networks. What the aliens didn't know was that each time Finn touched the crystals, he felt something stirring within them, something that responded to the quantum frequencies his body naturally generated. As he worked, Finn noticed something different about today's crystal formation. The veins were thicker here, older, and they hummed with a deeper resonance than the others. When his pickaxe struck the stone, the entire wall seemed to shudder, and for a moment the blue light intensified. "What was that?" another prisoner whispered. Jana Kowalski had been a terraforming engineer before her capture, her expertise in planetary systems making her valuable enough to keep alive. She worked beside Finn, her weathered face showing the same exhaustion they all carried. "I don't know," Finn replied. But even as he spoke, he felt drawn to place his hand directly on the crystal vein. The moment his skin made contact, warmth flooded through his palm, and the quantum resonance within him awakened like a sleeping giant. The crystal pulsed, responding to his touch, and suddenly Finn could feel something vast and ancient stirring. Deep within the planet's core, it wasn't just a crystal formation they were mining. It was alive, or had been once, and it recognized something in his genetic signature that the aliens couldn't detect. Without thinking, Finn pressed both palms against the wall and let his healing energy flow into the crystal network. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The entire mine shaft lit up like a star, and a deep, resonant roar echoed from somewhere far below. The Nexeran guards stumbled backward, their crystalline skin flickering with reflected light. "What have you done?" Anna gasped, but before Finn could answer, the ground beneath them began to crack. Something enormous was moving deep underground, responding to his call. The first guardian emerged from the depths like a living mountain. Its body was composed of the same crystals they had been mining, but arranged in the form of a massive serpentine creature with wings of pure light. Its eyes blazed with the same blue radiance as the mine walls, and when it spoke, its voice resonated through the quantum field that connected all living things. "Brother Healer," it said, the words forming directly in Finn's mind. "You have awakened us from our long sleep. We remember now. We remember the pact." The Nexeran guards screamed and fled, their weapons useless against a being made of living crystal. Other prisoners stared in wonder and terror as more guardians began to emerge from the depths, each one larger and more magnificent than the last. Finn felt tears streaming down his face as understanding flooded through him. These creatures weren't just guardians of the crystals, they were guardians of humanity, bound to their people by ancient genetic codes that predated the Empire by millennia. The Empress had been mining their sleeping forms for centuries, unknowing that she was harvesting the very beings created to protect the human race. The others must know, the Guardian continued, its massive form coiling around the mine shaft. The one who flies in shadow, the one who speaks for the silenced, must learn what you have discovered here, as the Guardians spread their crystal wings and prepared to break free from their subterranean prison. Finn realized that his time as a broken healer was over. The revolution had begun, and it started with a simple touch, a healer's instinct to mend what was broken. Even when what was broken was hope itself, the mine shook as the Guardians burst toward the surface, carrying with them the promise of freedom and the fury of the awakened. The asteroid belt surrounding Nexira Prime looked like scattered diamonds against the void, but Zara Nightwind knew better than to trust appearances in space. Hidden within the largest asteroid was Sanctuary 7, the most secure rebel base. In this sector, and she had just received the most impossible transmission of her career as a resistance fighter. Crystal Guardians awakening on the surface. She read aloud from her tactical display, her scarred fingers tracing the encrypted message. Healer designation Finn Carver, requesting immediate extraction. Zara, second in command, a grizzled former cargo pilot named Dex Morrison, shook his head in disbelief. Could be an Imperial trap. They've been trying to find our base for months. But Zara had survived 5 years of guerrilla warfare by trusting her instincts, and something about this message felt different. The quantum signature embedded in the transmission was unlike anything the Empire possessed. It resonated with frequencies that reminded her of the ancient human artifacts they had discovered in the Outer Rim worlds. "Prep the Ghost Runner," she ordered, referring to her modified stealth corvette. "If this is real, we can't afford to ignore it. If it's a trap, we'll spring it on our terms." The journey to Nexira Prime took 18 hours through hyperspace, and Zara spent every minute analyzing the growing reports of chaos on the prison planet. Entire mining complexes were being torn apart by creatures of living crystal, and the Imperial fleet stationed there was in full retreat. Whatever Finn Carver had unleashed, it was beyond the Empire's ability to contain. Zara had been a star pilot before the occupation, racing through asteroid fields and making impossible deliveries to frontier worlds. Now she used those same skills to slip past Imperial blockades and ferry refugees to safety. Her ship, the Ghost Runner, was a masterpiece of stealth technology, invisible to most sensors and fast enough to outrun anything that could detect it as they approached Nexira Prime. The scope of the destruction became clear. The planet's surface was scarred by massive crystal formations that hadn't been there before. Towering spires that pulsed with blue light and seemed to move with purpose. Imperial warships floated dead in space, their hulls cracked open like eggs by the void, Dex whispered. "What kind of weapons do these things have?" Zara studied the tactical readouts and realized the truth. They're not using weapons. They're using resonance. Those crystals are disrupting the molecular bonds in the Imperial ship's armor. She guided the Ghost Runner through the debris field, following the quantum signature toward the planet's surface. What she found there defied explanation. The crystal beings were massive, some as large as city blocks, but they moved with grace and intelligence. And standing among them, unharmed and somehow communicating with the creatures, was a man who matched Finn Carver's description. Zara set the ship down in a clearing between 2 dormant mining facilities, her weapons systems powered but not targeted. The moment she stepped onto the planet's surface, she felt a resonance in her bones that was both alien and familiar, as if something in her genetic code was responding to the crystal's presence. Finn approached with one of the smaller Guardians, its crystalline form shifting colors as it moved. Up close, Zara could see that the creature's structure wasn't random, was biomechanical, engineered with a sophistication that surpassed even the Empire's technology. "You came," Finn said, his voice hoarse from exhaustion but filled with wonder. "I wasn't sure the message would reach you."
"And what are these things?"
Zara asked, though part of her already suspected the answer. The Guardian spoke, its voice resonating. "Through quantum fields that bypass the ears entirely, we are the Protectorate, created by your ancestors to safeguard humanity's future. We have slept within these worlds for 10,000 years, waiting for the awakening signal." Finn placed his hand on the Guardian's crystalline surface. "They're connected to us genetically. The Empire has been mining their sleeping forms across dozens of worlds, using them to power their war machines. But they didn't know what they were really harvesting. Zara felt pieces of a vast puzzle clicking together in her mind. The ancient human ruins they had found, the artifacts that responded only to human touch, the legends of protector spirits that watched over the early colony. Worlds. It had all been real. How many are there? She asked. Hundreds of thousands, the Guardian replied. On every world where your people once walked, we sleep beneath the surface. The Empire has built their civilization on our backs without knowing our true purpose. A new plan began forming in Zara's mind, audacious and dangerous, but possibly their only hope for victory. Can you wake the others? All of them? The awakening spread slowly through quantum resonance, the Guardian explained, but it can be accelerated if the signal is carried to the core worlds, to the nexus points where our networks interconnect. Zara looked at Finn, seeing the same desperate hope in his eyes that she felt in her own heart. The capital world. Valdris. Prime. That's where the Emperor's main crystal reserves are stored. It's suicide, Dex protested over the comm channel. The capital is the most heavily defended system in the Empire. Not if we're not trying to fight our way in, Zara replied. If we can get close enough to the main crystal storage facility, Finn can trigger a mass awakening. Every Guardian on the planet would wake simultaneously. The Guardian's form pulsed with what might have been approval. The Empress sits upon a throne carved from our eldest brother's heart. If he awakens beneath her palace, her reign ends instantly. They planned their desperate mission. More Guardians emerged from the depths of Nagizra Prime, their crystalline forms catching and reflecting the system's twin suns. For the first time since the occupation began, Zara allowed herself to believe that humanity might actually have a chance at freedom. The revolution that had started with a healer's touch was about to become a war of awakening, and Zara Nightwind intended to carry its fire straight to the heart of the Empire. The diplomatic transport ship Harmony's Edge had once carried ambassadors and peace negotiators between the worlds of human space. Now, disguised as a tribute vessel bringing rare crystals to Empress Valdris, it served as a Trojan horse carrying the seeds of revolution into the very heart of the Empire. Kale Stormright adjusted his formal diplomatic robes, the familiar weight of ceremony feeling strange after months of hiding in rebel bases. He had been the youngest ambassador in human history before the occupation, skilled at reading the subtle currents of interspecies politics. Now those same skills would be put to their ultimate test. Remember Zara's voice crackled through his concealed comm unit? Yeah. You only need to get Finn within 50 meters of the throne room. The quantum resonance will do the rest. Kale glanced at his companion, still amazed by the transformation in the former healer. Finn Carver now moved with a confidence that came from understanding his true purpose. Crystal Guardians had taught him to perceive the quantum threads that connected all living things. And he could feel the sleeping giants beneath every world they passed. The Empress expects tribute-bearers to grovel. Kale murmured as their ship approached the docking bay of Valdris's Prime's orbital palace. Follow my lead and try to look appropriately, Sir Val. The palace was a monument to conquest, its halls lined with trophies taken from defeated worlds. Kale recognized artifacts from dozens of human colonies, each one representing millions of lives lost or enslaved. But beneath the opulent displays, he could feel something else, a deep thrumming. That seemed to emanate from the palace's foundation. Do you feel that? Finn whispered as they were escorted through corridors of polished obsidian. Kale nodded. The quantum signature was stronger here than anywhere they had encountered. Whatever lay beneath the throne room was ancient and vast, possibly the original guardian from which all others had been created. The throne room was a cathedral of crystalline shadow, its vaulted ceiling disappearing into darkness above. At its center, on a dais of what looked like living diamond, sat Empress Valdris herself. She was beautiful in the way that predators were beautiful, her forearms adorned with rings of power, her eyes glowing with the same blue radiance as the crystals that surrounded her. More tribute from the broken humans, she said, her voice carrying the harmonics of absolute authority. How tiresome. Do you bring me that I have not already taken? Kale performed the ritual bow that his diplomatic training had drilled. Into him, your Imperial Majesty, we bring crystals from the deep mines of Nexora Prime, extracted at great cost, and prepared according to ancient methods. He gestured to Finn, who stepped forward, carrying a container of ordinary mining crystals. But as Finn approached the throne, Kale saw the Empress's expression change. Her glowing eyes narrowed, and she leaned forward with predatory interest. "There is something different about you, little healer," she said. "I can taste the quantum resonance in your blood. You have touched something that was not meant for human hands." Finn met her gaze without flinching. "I've touched the truth about what you've built your empire on, Your Majesty. You rule from a throne carved from the heart of humanity's greatest protector, and you don't even know it." The Empress laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. "Protector? This throne is carved from the corpse of a failed experiment, one of countless creatures that died when their creators abandoned them. There is no protection for your species, only the mercy I choose to grant." "Then let me show you how wrong you are," Finn said quietly. He placed both hands on the container of crystals and let his healing energy flow into them. The effect was immediate. The crystals blazed with light, and that light spread through the quantum network that connected every crystal in the palace. The throne itself began to glow, and the Empress stumbled backward as the diamond beneath her feet started to crack. "What have you done?" She screamed, but her voice was drowned out by a sound that shook the entire palace, the roar of something, its immense awakening after eons of sleep. The throne exploded upward as the greatest of the Guardians burst free from its crystalline prison. It was larger than the others, older, its form incorporating elements of every creature that had ever served as humanity's protector. Its eyes, when they opened, held the wisdom of ages and the fury of the wrongfully enslaved. "Sister Tormentor," it said, its voice making the palace walls vibrate, "you have worn my heart as a crown for 1,000 years. Now face the judgment of the awakened." Valdris raised her weapons, energy cannons that could level mountains. But the Guardian's crystalline hide reflected the blasts harmlessly. Other Guardians began emerging from the palace's foundations, from the crystal gardens, from every ornamental formation that had been carved from their sleeping kin. Kale grabbed Finn and pulled him toward the nearest exit as the throne room became a battlefield. Through the palace's great windows, they could see more Guardians awakening across the capital, world-massive forms rising from mining sites, from power stations, from the very foundations of the Empire's greatest cities. "The awakening is spreading," Finn said, his eyes wide with wonder. "They're waking up on every world simultaneously. The quantum resonance is traveling faster than light through their network." The Empress's screams echoed through the collapsing palace as the Guardians closed in around her. She had built her throne on their backs, powered her war machines with their life force, and enslaved their chosen people. Now, as her empire crumbled into crystal dust around her, she faced the price of her hubris. Kale and Finn escaped to their ship as Valdris Prime transformed around them. The orbital palace was coming apart, its structure revealed to have been mostly crystalline Guardian material all along. But the destruction was controlled, purposeful. The Guardians were not mindless destroyers. They were surgically removing the cancer of the Empire while preserving what could be saved. As the Harmony's edge pulled away from the dying palace, Kale watched the Empress's final moments through the view screen. Valdris stood alone on her crumbling throne, defiant to the end, as the greatest Guardian approached her. There was no mercy in its ancient eyes, only justice delayed too long. The revolution was complete. Across 1,000 worlds, the Guardians were awakening, freeing human prisoners, dismantling the Empire's infrastructure, and preparing to shepherd their chosen people into a new age of freedom. Kale Stormwright, former diplomat turned revolutionary, smiled as he set course for the rebel base. He had helped shatter a throne built on stolen dreams, and from its fragments, humanity would build something better. The age of the Crystal Guardians had begun.